The dark edge of Neptune's orbit was quiet. Too quiet. Admiral Tahoe stood on the bridge of the UES Dauntless, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. At 62, he had seen many things in space, but never aliens. No human had. "Sir, the science vessel Curiosity reports strange energy readings near the ice giant," said Communications Officer Lee. Tai-ho nodded. "Tell Captain Ji-hyun to investigate but maintain safe distance." The year was 2152. Humans had spread to Mars and Europa, but had yet to venture beyond their home system. Earth's fleet was small, just 15 capital ships and their support vessels. The United Earth Space Force existed mainly to protect shipping lanes and colonies from pirates and rebels. On board the Curiosity, Captain Ji-hyun adjusted her glasses and studied the readings again. Something was creating ripples in space-time fabric. "What do you think, Lieutenant June?" she asked her second-in-command. The young officer shook his head. "Not natural, Captain. The pattern is too regular." Ji-hyun made her decision. "Take us closer. Shields at maximum." The Curiosity moved silently through the void. As they approached, the sensors revealed something impossible. A massive ship, badly damaged, drifting in Neptune's shadow. "It's not one of ours," whispered June, stating what everyone already knew. Ji-hyun opened a channel. "Admiral, we found a vessel of unknown origin, approximately 3 kilometers in length. No Earth nation or colony has ships this size." Back on the Dauntless, Tahoe felt his heart beat faster. Any signs of life? Faint power signatures. "And sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's not in any human language." Tahoe turned to his communications team. "Get our best AI working on translation. Tell the Curiosity to maintain position. I'm coming to you." 6 hours later, Tahoe's shuttle docked with the Curiosity. Ji-hyun met him in the bay, her face pale. "Sir, the AI has partly decoded their language. They're calling themselves the Arvani, and they're asking for help." Tai-ho followed her to the bridge where the strange transmission played on loop. The alien voice sounded like stones grinding together, but the translation hovered below. "To any sentient species, Arvani Confederacy seeks refuge. Enemy follows. They consume worlds. Heard your radio signals. Please respond." "They heard our broadcasts?" Tai-ho asked. "Old ones," Ji-hyun explained. "Radio waves we sent a century ago. They've been searching for us." Tai-ho made the hardest decision of his career. "Prepare a first contact team. We're going aboard their ship." The team of 5. Tai-ho, Ji-hyun, June, Dr. Min, the xenobiologist, and Security Chief Kang, crossed over to the alien vessel through a makeshift airlock. The gravity was slightly stronger than Earth's. The air surprisingly breathable. "They must have studied us carefully," Dr. Min said, checking her instruments. "This section has been adapted for human life." They moved through curved corridors until reaching a large chamber. There, waiting, stood 3 beings unlike anything humans had imagined. The Arvani were tall, nearly 3 meters, with 4 arms and iridescent blue skin that seemed to shimmer with inner light. Their faces had no noses, just breathing slits, and their 6 eyes arranged in a circle could blink independently. The central figure stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Koth of the Arvani Confederacy. We thank you for answering our call." The translation came through the team's earpieces, the aliens' mouth parts moving in patterns that didn't match the words. "I am Admiral Tai-ho of Earth. How can we help you?" Koth's body trembled, perhaps their version of emotion. "We have crossed 27 star systems seeking you. Our civilization is dying. A force we call the Harvesters pursues us, consuming everything in their path." "Why us?" Ji-hyun asked. "We're not very advanced compared to you." Koth turned all 6 eyes to her. "Because you are hidden. Because you might be our last hope. And because the Harvesters are coming here next." 3 days later, Earth's leaders gathered in the United Nations Hall in New York. The room buzzed with tension as Admiral Tahoe and Captain Ji-hyun escorted Ambassador Koth and two other Arvani to the center stage. Many humans gasped at the sight of the blue-skinned aliens. This was humanity's first public meeting with beings from another world. They claimed to need our help, General Han said with a frown. His eyes never left the aliens. But why should we trust them? This could be a trick to get past our defenses. Tahoe understood the concern. The Arvani ship is badly damaged. Their wounds are real. I believe their fear is real too. President Wang raised her hand for silence. Ambassador Koth, please tell us more about these harvesters that follow you. The translator device hummed as Koth spoke. The harvesters are not like us or you. They are part machine, part living matter. They do not talk. They do not make peace. They find worlds with resources and strip them bare. Koth's upper arms moved in a pattern that the humans now knew showed great sadness. 17 of our worlds are gone. Billions of our people dead. We are the last large group of survivors. Lieutenant June stepped forward with data tablets. We've checked their star maps. The destruction they described is real. Whole planets reduced to barren rock. Dr. Min added, their technology is about 100 years ahead of ours. But the harvesters are centuries beyond even the Arvani. The room filled with worried whispers. President Wang asked the question everyone feared. How long until these harvesters reach Earth? Koth's 6 eyes blinked one after another. They already have. A scout ship entered your system near the ice giant you call Neptune yesterday. The room erupted in panic. Admiral Tahoe shot a look at Ji-hyun, who was already checking her device. She nodded grimly, confirming the alien's claim. General Han slammed his fist on the table. We should have been told immediately. Our planet is in danger and you kept us in the dark. We confirmed it only 1 hour ago, Tahoe said calmly. The scout ship is small, watching from the edge of our system. But Koth says more will follow. President Wang stood, silencing the room. How many ships do we have ready to fight? 15 capital ships, 37 smaller vessels, Tahoe replied. Not enough if what the Arvani say is true. Koth stepped closer to the human leaders. Your ships alone cannot win. But we did not come only for safety. We came because human minds think differently. Your species solves problems in ways we cannot imagine. The alien touched a device on his arm. A hologram appeared, showing strange ships shaped like giant sea creatures with metal parts. These are the harvesters. They are drawn to energy and technology. Your world is bright with both, but your system has something the harvesters have never faced. What's that? Asked Dr. Min. You have humans, Koth said simply. In all our travels, we have never met beings who adapt as quickly as you do, who fight so fiercely even when outnumbered. General Han laughed without humor. Pretty words, but we have 15 ships against an enemy that destroyed 17 of your worlds. We also have 4,000 asteroids in the belt, Captain Ji-hyun said suddenly, her eyes bright with an idea. And Europa's ice, and Jupiter's gravity. Admiral Tahoe felt a small spark of hope as he recognized what she was suggesting. We don't fight like the Arvani. We don't have to match the harvesters ship for ship. For the first time since the aliens arrived, a genuine smile crossed Tahoe's face. We're going to change the rules of the game. President Wang looked from the admiral to the alien ambassador. After a long moment, she nodded. Very well. Earth will fight. And may whatever gods exist help us all. Admiral Tahoe stood in the massive hangar of Luna Base, watching teams of humans and Arvani working side by side. Just 1 week had passed since Earth agreed to help the aliens, and already everything had changed. Admiral, Captain Du Yum has arrived, said Lieutenant Jun. Tahoe nodded. Du Yum was exactly who they needed now. At 42, he had spent 15 years commanding asteroid mining operations before joining the Space Force. No one knew the belt better. The captain walked in, his face serious but his eyes alert. He bowed slightly to Taiho. You called for me, sir. Captain, I'm giving you a special mission, perhaps the most important one of this war. Do Young listened carefully as Taiho explained their plan. They would not try to match the Harvesters ship for ship. Instead, they would use the solar system itself as a weapon. Your mining experience is vital, Taiho said. We need to move asteroids, use them as weapons and shields. Can it be done? Do Young thought for a moment. Yes, sir. My crews can attach thrusters to redirect their paths. But we'll need time. You have 2 weeks at most, Taiho replied. The Harvester Scout is still watching, but their main fleet will arrive soon. On the other side of the hangar, Dr. Min was studying Arvani technology with growing concern. Something wasn't right. The aliens had shared weapons and shields, but kept certain things secret. Captain Ji-hyun, may I speak with you? She asked when she found the captain reviewing defense plans. Ji-hyun followed Dr. Min to a quiet corner. What's wrong? I've been translating old Arvani texts they shared with us, Dr. Min said, keeping her voice low. There's something they're not telling us about why the Harvesters attacked them specifically. She showed Ji-hyun her tablet. According to this, the Arvani developed a powerful energy source 300 years ago. The first Harvester attacks began shortly after. Ji-hyun frowned. You think these energy sources attracted them? I think the Harvesters want something the Arvani have, Dr. Min said. And Ambassador Koth didn't share this connection with us. Meanwhile, Captain Du Young had assembled his team in the asteroid belt. They worked tirelessly, attaching massive engines to selected rocks, creating what he called the first asteroid fleet. Arvani engineers helped, sharing their knowledge of propulsion. One of them, tech specialist Vren, worked closely with Du Young. Your plan is bold, Vren said as they finished, installing a control system on a 2-kilometer-wide asteroid. My people would never think to weaponize a planetary system this way. Do Young wiped sweat from his forehead. Humans adapt. When we're outgunned, we get creative. Vren's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. The Harvesters are coming with hundreds of ships, each one capable of destroying the city from orbit. Then we better make sure they don't reach orbit, Du Young replied. Back on Earth, Admiral Taiho received troubling news. The Harvester Scout had moved, accelerating toward the inner system. They're coming sooner than we expected, he told the Emergency Council. Du Young's asteroid weapons are only partially ready. Our fleet is in position near Mars, but we're not prepared for a full assault yet. President Wong looked grim. What about evacuation plans? Underground shelters are being stocked, General Han reported, but there's no place to run if Earth falls. Ambassador Koth, who had been quiet, finally spoke. The scout ship moves faster than we predicted. The Harvesters must have detected something that interests them greatly. Lieutenant Jun exchanged a knowing look with Dr. Min. It was time to confront the ambassador about what they had discovered. Ambassador, Jun said firmly, we need to know everything about why the Harvesters hunt your people. No more secrets, or we can't help you, or ourselves. The alarm blared throughout the UES Dauntless. Admiral Taiho rushed to the bridge, his face grim. Report, he ordered. Sir, the Harvester scout ship has destroyed our monitoring stations near Pluto, said the tactical officer. It's moving faster than we predicted. Taiho studied the holographic display. The enemy was already past Neptune, heading inward. They had expected days more to prepare. Send word to Captain Du Young. Operation Asteroid needs to launch now, ready or not. Near the asteroid belt, Du Young received the message with a heavy heart. His team had prepared only 38 asteroids with propulsion systems. They had planned for at least 100. We move with what we have, he told his team. Begin launch sequence. The massive rocks, each fitted with powerful engines, began to move from their natural orbits. It was the first time in human history that someone had deliberately changed the paths of so many large space objects. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ambassador Koth faced angry questions from Dr. Min and Lieutenant Jun. You knew the harvesters were following your energy technology, Dr. Min accused. Why hide this from us? Koth's blue skin darkened with emotion. Would you have helped us if you knew the full truth? That our own progress doomed us. We needed all the facts to defend ourselves properly, Jun said. Now we have less time than we thought. Captain Ji-hyun interrupted their confrontation. The Harvester Scout has accelerated to near light speed. It will reach Pluto's orbit in hours, not days. Dr. Min studied the data on her tablet, her eyes widening. These energy readings, they're similar to theoretical designs from our own labs. Their technology may have vulnerabilities that match our understanding of physics. For the first time, a small hope flickered. If the harvesters used principles humans had studied, perhaps they could be fought after all. Admiral Taho deployed his small fleet near Pluto, hiding the ships behind the dwarf planet and its moon, Charon. 15 capital ships against an unknown enemy force. The odds were terrible, but they had to slow the Harvester Scout before it could report Earth's defenses. All ships, maintain position, Taho ordered. Let them come to us. The wait was short. The Harvester Scout emerged from the darkness, a massive creature of metal and biological parts. It resembled a giant sea ray with glowing veins running through its hull. It was 5 times larger than Earth's biggest ship. Weapons hot, ordered Taho. Fire on my mark. Before he could give the command, the Harvester fired first. Beams of purple energy lashed out, slicing through 3 Earth ships instantly. No warnings, no demands. Just death. Evasive action. Taho shouted as the Dauntless shook from a near miss. All ships, scatter formation. The human fleet fired back with everything they had. Missiles, lasers, and rail guns hammered the Harvester. Most simply bounced off its strange hull. Our weapons aren't effective, reported the tactical officer, his voice shaking. 2 more Earth ships exploded. The battle was becoming a massacre. Then Taho's communication officer yelled, "Sir, Captain Du Young reports the asteroid wave is approaching." Taho smiled grimly. All remaining ships pulled back behind Charon. Now, as the human ships retreated, thousands of asteroids appeared, propelled at tremendous speed. Du Young had launched not just the 38 weaponized asteroids, but had used their gravity to pull hundreds of smaller rocks with them. The Harvester, focused on the fleeing ships, detected the asteroid wave too late. The first impacts hammered its hull. Then more came, an avalanche of space rocks smashing into the massive ship from multiple directions. The Harvester Scout tried to maneuver, but the asteroid field was too dense, too fast. A particularly large impact cracked its hull, exposing the strange organic material beneath. "It's working," shouted one of Taho's officers. But their celebration was short-lived. The damaged Harvester sent out a pulse of energy, a signal beaming toward deep space. It called for help, Taho realized. The main fleet is coming. Lieutenant Jun and Dr. Min walked quickly through the curved hallways of the Arvani ship. After the battle with the Harvester Scout, they needed answers. The remaining Earth ships had limped back to Mars for repairs, but Admiral Taho estimated they had only days before the main Harvester fleet arrived. "Ambassador Koth must tell us everything now," Jun said firmly. "No more secrets." They found the blue-skinned alien in a chamber filled with glowing star maps. Koth turned all 6 eyes toward them as they entered. "I was expecting you," Koth said. "You fought well against the Scout." "We lost 3 ships and barely damaged 1 enemy vessel," Dr. Min replied sharply. "Now tell us the complete truth. What are the Harvesters really after?" Koth's 4 arms dropped in a gesture of defeat. "Very well. You have earned the right to know." The alien touched a control panel, and the room darkened. A new hologram appeared, showing the strange device. 300 years ago, my people discovered how to tap into zero-point energy, the energy that exists in empty space itself. It gave us nearly unlimited power. The hologram changed to show planets with massive energy facilities. But there was a problem. Koth continued. The energy extraction created tiny tears in spacetime, small ripples that spread across the galaxy. Dr. Min gasped as she understood. The harvesters detected these ripples. Yes, Koth admitted. They evolved specifically to feed on such energy. We did not create the harvesters, but we woke them. They tracked our ripples across 17 star systems, consuming everything in their path. June's face hardened with anger. You brought them here. You endangered Earth without telling us the full risk. Would you have helped us if you knew? Koth asked again. Maybe not, Dr. Min said. But now we might have a chance to save both our peoples. She studied the hologram carefully. If the harvesters are drawn to these energy signatures, we can use that. We can create lures, traps. Back on Mars, Admiral Tahoe and Captain Du Young were planning their next move when Captain Ji-hyun burst into the command center. Sir, we just received a message from deep space, she said, her voice trembling with excitement. It's from an Arvani refugee fleet, a big one. The room fell silent as a new hologram appeared. Hundreds of Arvani ships were hiding in the Oort cloud at the edge of the solar system. They claim there are over 2 million Arvani refugees aboard, Ji-hyun explained. They were waiting to see if we could help before risking exposure. Do Young looked confused. Why didn't Ambassador Koth tell us about them? They were afraid, Tahoe realized. Afraid we would refuse to help if we knew how many there really were. The Admiral studied the fleet's position. Can they reach Mars before the Harvester main fleet arrives? Ji-hyun nodded. Barely. They're already moving. In Earth's orbit, Dr. Min shared her discoveries with the Unified Defense Council. The room was packed with military leaders, scientists, and government officials from every nation. The harvesters are drawn to zero-point energy signatures, she explained. They can detect them across vast distances, but this gives us an advantage. She displayed her plans on the main screen. We can create artificial signatures to lure them away from populated areas. General Han looked skeptical. So we make better bait. How does that help us win? Dr. Min smiled. Because now we know what they eat. And if you know what something eats, she paused meaningfully. You can poison it. President Wong leaned forward. How long to implement this plan? 2 weeks would be ideal, Dr. Min answered. You have 3 days, the president replied grimly. That's when the Harvester main fleet will arrive, according to the Arvani calculations. Admiral Tahoe stood up. Then we need to buy time. Captain Du Young and I have a plan. It's risky, but it might give us those 3 days. As the meeting ended, Lieutenant June approached Dr. Min quietly. There's something else. Ambassador Koth finally admitted their ships can still create the energy signatures that attract the harvesters. They've been keeping them dormant, but they could serve as perfect bait, Dr. Min finished, her eyes lighting up with a dangerous new idea. Earth was changing faster than anyone thought possible. In just 3 days, the entire planet had become a war factory. Every space dock worked nonstop. Every scientist and engineer focused on one goal: survival. Admiral Tahoe stood in the main control room of Luna Base, watching the massive operation unfold. Beside him, Captain Du Young explained their bold new plan. We're calling it Operation Firefly, Du Young said, pointing to the holographic display. We're converting our smallest ships into automated decoys. Each one will emit an artificial zero-point energy signature. Like hanging out bait, Tahoe nodded. How many can we make ready in time? 52. We're stripping them of everything except engines and the energy emitters Dr. Min designed. Dr. Min and Ji-hyun entered the room carrying new data tablets. Their faces showed both exhaustion and excitement. We've made a breakthrough, Dr. Min announced. The Harvester scout ship wasn't just consuming energy. It was processing it through these specialized organs. She displayed images from the damaged scout ship. If we can disrupt this processing system, we can essentially give them indigestion. Ji-hyun continued. We've designed a new weapon. It mimics zero-point energy, but carries a disruption wave that should shut down their ability to feed. Should? Asked Taiho. We can't test it fully without an actual harvester, Dr. Min admitted, but the physics are sound. Meanwhile, Mars had become a temporary home for the arriving Arvani refugees. Millions of blue-skinned aliens were settling into hastily built shelters. This created tension with the human colonists, who numbered only a few 100,000. Sun Hai, the colonial administrator and Du Young's wife, was working tirelessly to manage the situation. She met with Arvani leaders in the main dome. We need your people to share their technical knowledge, she explained. In return, we'll provide shelter and protection. An elderly Arvani named Mril nodded her six-eyed head. Our engineers are already helping your defense teams, but many of our people are afraid. They've seen worlds burn. Sun He's face softened. We all have the same goal, survival. My husband is risking his life out there to make that possible. Back in orbit, Lieutenant Jun was overseeing the integration of Arvani technology with human systems. He had been working with tech specialist Vren for days without rest. Your energy dampeners are impressive, Vren said, connecting delicate wires to a human missile system. No Arvani would have fought to counteract zero-point radiation this way. Humans are good at breaking things, Jun replied with a tired smile. Sometimes that means breaking problems too. The warning klaxon sounded, cutting their conversation short. The main display showed new contacts appearing at the edge of the system. Dozens at first, then hundreds. The harvester fleet has arrived, announced the system AI. Estimated time to Mars orbit, 72 hours. Admiral Taiho called an emergency meeting with all commanders. The holographic room filled with faces, some human, some Arvani. Our plans must accelerate, Taiho said firmly. Captain Du Young, deploy the Firefly decoys immediately. Position them near Jupiter. Make the energy signature strong. We need to draw as many harvesters as possible away from Earth and Mars. Du Young nodded. Yes, sir. And the asteroid field. Captain Ji Hyun will lead that operation. We've mined the belt with Dr. Min's disruptor devices. When the harvesters pass through, we detonate them all. Ambassador Koth, who had been silent, finally spoke. Admiral, I must tell you something about our refugee ships. They contain more than just civilians. We have 26 warships hidden among them. The room grew quiet as Koth continued. They are not large, but they can fight. We were afraid to reveal them before, but now there is no choice. We stand with Earth. Taiho's face remained stern, but he nodded. Every ship helps. Now we execute Operation Firefly. The smallest fleet humanity has ever fielded against an enemy is about to change everything. The harvester fleet was a terrifying sight. Over 200 massive ships, each one shaped like a sea creature made of metal and living tissue, moved steadily through the outer solar system. Their purple energy beams tested the darkness ahead, searching for prey. Admiral Taiho watched from the bridge of the Dauntless, hidden within Saturn's rings. The gas giant's magnetic field helped mask their presence. Operation Firefly is ready, sir, reported Lieutenant Jun. All 52 decoy ships are in position near Jupiter. Taiho nodded. Activate the energy signatures. Across the void, the small unmanned ships began to pulse with artificial zero-point radiation. The effect was immediate. Like sharks smelling blood, over half the harvester fleet changed course, heading toward Jupiter. They took the bait, Taiho said with satisfaction. Now for Phase 2. Signal Captain Du Young. Deep in the asteroid belt, Du Young received the message on his small stealth ship. With him were 20 elite soldiers and 3 Arvani engineers. Their mission was the most dangerous of all, to board the Harvester command ship and plant Dr. Min's disruptor device at its core. It's time, he told his team. Remember, we need to reach the central processing chamber. Stay silent as long as possible. His thoughts briefly turned to Sun Hai on Mars. He had recorded a message for her before leaving, just in case. Du Young pushed the thought aside. Focus was essential now. As the harvesters approached Jupiter, they encountered the decoy ships. The massive aliens began to feed, extending strange tendrils to absorb the energy. They didn't notice the real trap waiting in the asteroid field. Captain Ji-hyun's voice came over the comm system. Asteroid mines are armed and ready, Admiral. Waiting for your command. Tahoe studied the tactical display. Nearly 100 harvester ships were now clustered around Jupiter, feeding on the decoys, but the remaining ships were still heading toward Mars and Earth. All ships, prepare for battle, he ordered. This is not a drill. This is for the survival of both our species. The combined human Arvani fleet emerged from hiding. 12 Earth capital ships, 26 Arvani warships, and over 60 smaller vessels formed a defensive line between the harvesters and the inner planets. For Earth, Tahoe shouted as the fleet accelerated toward the enemy. The space between Mars and Jupiter erupted in light and fire. The human ships were smaller but faster, darting between the massive harvesters, firing at weak points identified from the scout ship battle. The Arvani ships used strange weapons that distorted space around the harvesters, slowing them down. But the aliens were powerful. 3 human ships exploded in the first minutes. An Arvani cruiser was torn in half by purple energy beams. Ambassador Koth stood on the bridge of the Dauntless beside Tahoe. Your people fight with remarkable courage, he said as a small Earth ship deliberately rammed a harvester to protect a damaged Arvani vessel. Meanwhile, Du Young's stealth team had reached the harvester command ship. Using technology reverse-engineered from the scout ship, they cut through the strange hull. The inside was nightmare fuel, half machine, half living tissue, pulsing with purple light. Stay focused, Du Young whispered as they moved deeper into the alien vessel. We have one job. Back at the main battle, Tahoe saw his chance. Captain Ji-hyun, detonate the asteroid mines now. Throughout the asteroid belt, hundreds of hidden explosives detonated simultaneously. The shockwaves disrupted the harvester's sensitive energy detection systems. At the same moment, the human Arvani fleet launched everything they had. Missiles, energy weapons, and rail guns hammered the confused harvesters. For the first time, the aliens seemed to falter. It's working, shouted an officer on the Dauntless. But victory was far from certain. The largest harvester, the command ship, remained untouched. It released a pulse that restored order to the alien fleet. They began to coordinate again, their superior technology pushing back against the defenders. Tahoe knew everything now depended on Du Young's team. If they failed, Earth would fall. Hold the line, he ordered as his ship shuddered from enemy fire. Whatever happens, we give Du Young the time he needs. Inside the harvester command ship, Captain Du Young and his team moved carefully through pulsing corridors. The air was thick and smelled like metal and something organic. Strange lights flowed through tube-like structures in the walls. We're close to the central chamber, whispered Vren, the Arvani engineer. The energy core should be just ahead. They had lost 3 team members already to the ship's internal defenses, living tendrils that struck from the walls without warning. Du Young checked the disruptor device in his pack. Dr. Min's creation looked small for something meant to save 2 civilizations. Outside, the battle raged across the solar system. Admiral Tahoe's flagship took heavy damage as it protected civilian evacuation ships fleeing from Mars. The Dauntless shuddered as purple energy beams sliced through its lower decks. Hull breach on levels 3 through 7, shouted a tactical officer. We're losing power to weapons. Tahoe grabbed the command console as the ship rocked from another hit. Reroute emergency power. Keep those civilians protected at all costs. Ambassador Koth worked alongside human technicians, his 4 arms moving quickly to repair critical systems. Admiral, a harvester fire is becoming more coordinated. They're adapting to our tactics. Captain Ji-hyun's voice crackled over the damaged comm system. Admiral, we can't hold them much longer. Half our fleet is gone. The situation looked hopeless, but then Lieutenant Jun spotted something on his scanner. Sir, the harvester ships, they're all connected to the command vessel through some kind of energy network. They're not independent. At that moment, deep inside the command ship, Du Young's team reached the central chamber. It was enormous, filled with a swirling purple light that pulsed like a giant heart. The walls were lined with thousands of strange objects that looked like data storage devices. "What are those?" asked Sergeant Kim, pointing to the objects. Vren studied them with all 6 eyes. They appear to be memory units, but they're not just collecting energy. They're collecting information. Do Young had no time to wonder about this discovery. Plant the disruptor. We have 5 minutes to get out before it activates. As Vren placed Dr. Min's device near the energy core, alarm sounds filled the ship. Doors began to close throughout the chamber. "They've detected us," Du Young said grimly. "Everyone move. Now." The team ran for the exit, but the closing doors were too fast. Du Young realized with cold certainty that they wouldn't all make it out. "Go," he shouted, pushing his remaining team through the last door. "I'll make sure the disruptor activates properly." "Captain." "No," Sergeant Kim cried, but the door slammed shut between them. Alone now, Du Young returned to the energy core. The disruptor was already working, its lights blinking faster as it prepared to release its payload. But damage to the device during their escape meant it needed manual activation. Du Young thought of Sun Hai, wishing he could see her one more time. He pulled out his personal communicator and recorded a final message. With luck, it would reach her through the quantum communication network. "My love," he said softly, "what we do today will save millions. Remember me, but don't stop living. Build something better from all this, something that will last." He sent the message and then pressed the final sequence on the disruptor. In space, the effect was immediate and devastating. The command ship pulsed with energy before emitting a massive wave that spread to all connected harvester vessels. Their perfect coordination dissolved into chaos. "What's happening?" demanded Taiho, watching the enemy ships begin to drift aimlessly. "Their network is disrupted," Ji-hyun replied. Du Young did it. The combined fleet pressed their advantage. Without coordination, the harvesters couldn't adapt to the smaller, faster human and Arvani ships. One by one, the massive alien vessels were destroyed or disabled. But the victory came at a terrible price. The harvester command ship exploded in a burst of purple light, so bright it temporarily blinded sensors across the system. "Captain Du Young's ship?" Taiho asked, though he already knew the answer. Silence filled the bridge of the Dauntless. Then Koth spoke softly. "He gave his life for both our peoples. There is no greater sacrifice." As the remaining harvesters retreated in disarray, Admiral Taiho gave one final order. "Let's go home," he said, his voice heavy with both victory and loss. "We have worlds to rebuild." 6 months had passed since the great battle. Earth was healing, and so was Admiral Taiho. He stood by the window of his office on Luna Base, looking down at the blue planet. His right arm was now mechanical, a small price to pay for victory. "Admiral, they're ready for you," said Lieutenant June, now Captain June after his bravery in the battle. Taiho nodded and followed June to the meeting hall. Inside waited leaders from Earth and the Arvani Confederacy. President Wong smiled as he entered. "Admiral, right on time for the founding of the Joint Defense Force." Taiho took his place at the center table. Though still recovering from his injuries, he had been chosen to lead this new force. Humans and Arvani would protect each other now. "We honor those who gave everything for our survival," Taiho began. "Captain Du Young, whose sacrifice saved us all. The crews of 27 Earth ships and 31 Arvani vessels who never returned home. They changed the course of history." On Mars, a new memorial stood in the central dome. Sun Hai placed her hand on the statue of her husband Du Young. His final message to her played in her mind every day. Build something better from all this. Something that will last. She was trying. As the new director of Arvani Human Integration, Sun Hai oversaw the growing communities where both species lived and worked together. The first children of both species were learning each other's languages in shared schools. He would be proud, said Ambassador Koth, who had come to pay his respects. Your husband saved 2 civilizations. Sun He nodded. He always said that in space, everyone needs neighbors. No one survives alone. In Earth orbit, Dr. Ji-hyun and Dr. Min watched as the new hybrid ship Rising Phoenix prepared for its maiden voyage. It combined human ingenuity with Arvani technology in ways neither species had imagined before. It's beautiful, Ji-hyun said. To think it all started with a damaged alien ship near Neptune. Dr. Min smiled. And a lot of secrets. Speaking of which, how goes your new mission? Ji-hyun's face grew serious. We've made progress understanding the Harvester communication system. I leave tomorrow with Captain Jun to explore their home territory. If we can establish contact with whatever intelligence controls them, maybe we can find lasting peace. The Rising Phoenix wasn't the only new development. Zero-point energy now powered Earth's cities, ending centuries of pollution. New medicines from Arvani biology had cured 3 major human diseases. Human computer systems had solved long-standing Arvani engineering problems. In Washington, D.C., Admiral Taiho stood before the United Nations as Ambassador Koth presented Earth's leaders with a special gift, a star map showing thousands of other civilizations. Many of these worlds may face the Harvester threat, Koth explained. With your permission, we would like to send joint missions to warn them and offer protection. President Wang looked to Taiho, who nodded. From begging for salvation to offering it to others, Wang said, what a change 6 months can bring. On board the Rising Phoenix, Captain Jun prepared for their historic journey beyond known space. Dr. Ji-hyun joined him on the bridge, along with a crew of 60, half human, half Arvani. Course set for the former Harvester territories, Jun announced. All systems ready. Ji-hyun looked at the view screen showing Earth growing smaller behind them. Do you think we'll find more answers out there? About why the Harvesters collected all that data? I hope so, Jun replied. But whatever we find, we face it together. As the Rising Phoenix jumped to faster-than-light speed, Admiral Taiho watched from Earth control. Who would have thought that humanity's 15 capital ships, the smallest fleet in known space, would change the destiny of the galaxy? Not through overwhelming force, but through human ingenuity, sacrifice, and the simple willingness to help others in need. That was humanity's greatest strength. And now, the stars themselves would know it. Godspeed, Phoenix, Taiho whispered. The journey has just begun.